It's been called the greatest war ever fought by men. But like all conflicts in history, it's also been about women. The sack of Troy was a moment when the world changed, a clash between gods and men, love and loss, honor and revenge. It was a time when heroes walked the earth, and yet this epic tale has been told and retold so many times over the years that most people have forgotten just how amazing it really is. This is the story of the fall of Troy, from the burning of the city to the return of the hero Achilles. The year is 1184 BC, the place. The Aegean Sea. The mighty ships of the Mycenaean Greeks are sailing to the shores of Anatolia in search of a new kingdom. Their leader, King Agamemnon, is desperate to make a name for himself. He has heard rumors of a far-off land filled with gold and silver and wants to be the first king to plunder it. But to get there, he must first find a way past the imposing walls of the great city of Troy. As the Greek fleet approached the coast, they were met with a sight that made their hearts sink. The Trojans had built an enormous wall around their city, one that would take years to scale. But there was hope. If they could just get inside, then maybe they could steal enough gold and jewels to make their journey worthwhile. So the Greeks did what any self-respecting army would do. They attacked head-on. The battle raged for 9 long days as the Greeks tried to break through the Trojan defenses. But it seemed like no matter how many soldiers they sent against the wall, the Trojans just kept coming back with more. The Greeks were exhausted and demoralized and ready to give up, but just when all hope seemed lost, one of Agamemnon's generals came up with a plan. He suggested that they build a giant wooden horse and leave it outside the gates of Troy. Then, when the Trojans came out to investigate, they would sneak in and open the gates from within. The Trojans fell for it hook, line, and sinker. As soon as they saw the massive horse, they thought it was a gift from the gods and brought it inside their city. But as soon as the last of the Greeks had slipped inside, the Trojans began to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. The Greeks were not only stronger than they had anticipated, but they were also more cunning. In a matter of hours, the entire city was in flames and the Greek army was looting everything in sight. Among the treasures they stole was the famous Palladium, an ancient statue of the goddess Athena said to have been brought to Troy by refugees from Athens during the Persian invasions. The theft of the Palladium was considered a grave insult by the Trojans, and they vowed revenge. To make matters worse, the Greeks had taken several Trojan princesses hostage, including the beautiful Helen, who was married to the Spartan king. When news of the siege reached Sparta, Menelaus and his brother, the Theban king Agamemnon, assembled an army of 10,000 men and set sail for Troy. But after 10 long years of fighting, neither side could claim victory. The war had become a stalemate, and both armies were exhausted. It was at this point that the Greeks decided to bring out the big guns, literally. They unleashed the terrible wrath of Zeus, who sent a bolt of lightning that split the Trojan horse in two, revealing the Greek warriors hidden inside. The Trojans were terrified and quickly surrendered, allowing the Greeks to loot the city and take Helen back to Sparta. But not all the Greeks were happy with this outcome. One young warrior in particular, Achilles, was furious. He felt that the other Greeks had betrayed him by ending the war without giving him a chance to fight one last battle. Achilles gathered his men and prepared to attack Troy one last time. But before he could do anything, Zeus intervened and struck him down with a thunderbolt, killing him instantly. So there you have it, the complete story of the fall of Troy, all told in under 6 minutes. But if you want to hear more about the myths and legends of ancient Greece, then Stick around because we've got plenty more where that came from. You probably know about the Trojan War, but did you know about the events that led up to it? According to Homer's Iliad, the war started after the abduction of Helen by the Trojan prince Paris, but there's much more to her story than that. Helen was the most beautiful woman in the world, or at least she would have been if she hadn't already been married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. That's right. Helen was already taken before Paris ever laid eyes on her. In fact, she had been promised to Menelaus when she was still a child, and even though Paris was willing to break the law and tradition to be with her, she never loved him. From the moment they met, Helen knew that she was in trouble. She tried everything she could think of to escape Paris's clutches, but nothing worked. He was determined to marry her, even if it meant going to war with the entire Greek world. In the end, Helen had no choice but to accept Paris's proposal, but even then, she never stopped fighting for her freedom. She used every trick in the book to try and make life miserable for her captor, hoping that one day soon she would be free. However, Paris wasn't having any of it. He was too in love with Helen to let her go, no matter how much she begged him to set her free. Paris and Helen ruled over Troy together for 10 long years until the Greek army arrived to take Helen back to Sparta. During the siege, Paris stayed by Helen's side, protecting her from harm and fighting valiantly against the Greeks. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Troy was sacked and Helen was forced to leave with the Greeks. Despite everything she had been through, Helen never gave up hope. She knew that someday she would find a way to escape from Sparta and return to Paris. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. After spending 5 years in captivity, Helen managed to escape back to Troy, where she and Paris lived out the remainder of their days together in peace and harmony. Achilles was arguably the greatest Greek warrior of the Trojan War, but what made him so special? Well, it wasn't just his strength or skill in battle. Achilles was also known for his intelligence and cunning, as well as his ability to inspire fear in his enemies. In fact, some say that Achilles was so terrifying to behold in battle that his mere presence was enough to make the bravest Trojan soldier break and run. But despite all his accomplishments, Achilles had one fatal flaw: anger. He was known for his hot temper and quickness to resort to violence when things did ungo his way. This trait often got him into trouble, and it eventually led to his downfall. Achilles' wrath was a force to be reckoned with, and it often put the Greek army at risk. But his fellow soldiers knew that there was no reasoning with him when he was in one of his moods. They simply had to let him blow off some steam and hope that he would uncause too much damage in the process. And damage he did. During the siege of Troy, Achilles went on a rampage that left hundreds of Trojans dead in his wake. He was unstoppable, it seemed, until he was finally killed by an arrow to the heel. Even in death, Achilles' rage was a force to be reckoned with. His ghost is said to have haunted the battlefield of Troy, forever seeking revenge on those who had slain him. Some say Achilles' spirit still lives on in the modern day, waiting for the day when he will finally get his revenge. This cinematic documentary-style video explores the heroic journeys of legendary figures such as Odysseus and his cunning plan to infiltrate Troy, Ajax and his strength and bravery in battle, and Hector and his loyalty to his city. Through dramatic reenactments and insightful commentary, this video brings to life the most epic battles in history and allows viewers to experience the Trojan War like never before. If you enjoy this type of content, please remember to support us and share with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.